Ready?
Yes.
All right, we're really excited about tonight. I mean, Bijan, we hold him in high regard on the field, off the field. We talk about positionless football, the versatility, the impact that he's going to make for us. We're extremely excited to get Bijan at 8.
Could you all discuss his versatility, Terry, and then, Coach, can you give us more insight to that Austin workout he gave us a little bit about today?
Yeah, so we did a lot of work on the guys that we thought would be in that pod we're picking, whether we moved up or back a few spots, and so we went down to Austin and were able to work Bijan out. Took him to dinner the night before, worked him out. It felt really good about. It's no different than we did with Drake the year before. And some of the things that we were going to ask him to do, I mean, you see it on the tape. We knew his background, not just as a running back. The running back stuff was obvious on the tape, but the versatility part, where you could use him and where he's been effective. I mean, that he did that at Texas at times, but his background playing in the slot was another big piece of it, D-Led. That's intriguing. And we just feel he's an explosive weapon. He's a home run hitter. And, however he gets the football in his hands.
And Jalen Carter was available. What were your all's decision-making process and go with the running back over the tackle there?
A lot of good players available, D-Led. I mean, you can't coach them all. And so you make the decisions. Obviously, when we collaborate, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and we do what we think is best for our team. But there's a lot of good players. It's not ever about just one guy, and I understand the question and the intent of the question because he is a player that was successful at Georgia, and they've had a lot of success the last 2 years. But there are a lot of good players there.
As far as you mentioned Bijan and what he's able to do, you've tried to, with Cordero, kind of move him all over the place. Is that a similar vision that you would have for Bijan?
As you get in there, you have a vision, but with a young player, you want to bring him along, make sure he's successful early. Him and CP are different football players. I mean, I know you're talking about they are unique where you can line them up, but their skill sets are different. So they're not the same player. We didn't take Bijan thinking he's CP, but they do have a lot of versatility, no different than Kyle does. Kyle can play in the core, he can play on the slide, he can play outside. And then Janu too. I mean, Janu can play a lot of different places as well. So just another explosive player that we can add to our offense. And as I said, we're really fired up that we were able to get him at 8.
Following up on that, throughout, really since you've been here, you've tried to find players that can be in multiple spots, whether it's Kyle, whether it's Drake, who can be inside or outside. What does that do offensively for you guys now that it seems like every player you have, except for maybe Tyler, can do that?
It allows you a lot of flexibility. Right? You can get unique with your personnel packages. You can line up where it looks like 22 personnel. You can line up where it looks like 10 personnel, 11, get into empty. So it allows you to put a lot of stress, even just pre-snap logistically, as you're going onto the field. And, the way we operate and play, and we'll evolve. There's not, because we did something last year. I mean, you look at our passing numbers from 21 to last year. I mean, you're going to see them more balanced this year, the way we want to play and how we want to evolve as an offense as well. And so Bijan, obviously he can carry the football. That's obvious. But the other way you can find ways to get guys touches, whether, first, second down, whether you're talking about the screen games, you're talking about some of the intermediate stuff. So we feel really good where we're at skill-wise.
And Terry, just for you, I mean, there were some pretty high-level defensive players on the board, along with Bijan. What was it that you saw out of Bijan that made you want to go the offensive side of the ball versus maybe one of the higher-end defensive players?
Yeah, and there were other good offensive players on the board too, but we look at the impact that he's going to make on offense, and again, we're not living in a box and saying that, hey, we can only take this position or that position. We're not going to reach if we don't feel good about things. And so the total picture of it, we really like what he's going to bring to the offense. We really like the impact that he's going to make on offense. And this is it's a good draft. So there's a lot of other good players on the board at a lot of other positions, and we're excited about tomorrow. We're going to bring in some good players. Whether, look, this next pick for us could be another offensive player, could be a defensive player, but it's going to be a player that's going to make an impact.
This could be for either of you guys, but when you kind of look at the 3 years that Bijan was with Texas, he's incredibly durable. I think only missed like a couple of games. When you talk to, him and also
Thanks, Tori.
when you talk to him and also, coaches at Texas, what about his prep kind of helped him in that regard?
Yeah, just I think everything about him, he really is. He's a really mature young man. The way he works, whether it's prehab or the way he takes care of his body, he's already it's kind of unique because most of these players, they're young, so they're going to be a little immature, but he's already a true professional. I'm sure you guys got to spend some time with him today already, and you can see who he really is as a person and the professional he is. So we get excited about that. We get excited about when you put on the tape, and when you put on the tape, he's usually the best player on the field out there. He's been like that for a long time in his life. And then whenever you meet the person and put the total picture together, we like to bring in guys that are going to make people around them better as well. And he is. He's going to come in, and the competitor he is, the person he is, we're really excited.
What's a moment or maybe a story from maybe when you guys visited him or at some other point during this pre-draft process that you thought, man, this is exactly the kind of guy that we're looking for?
Yeah, there's a lot of, like we talked about the other day, like every interaction we have with the players matter. And another cool part about it, when we went down to Austin, TQ showed up at the workout, and guy that had been his teammate, and you could see their interactions and how much, how close they were as friends. Even TQ went with us to that barbecue place and got the biggest rib I think I've ever seen in my entire. I'm from Memphis, and I've seen a lot of barbecue, a lot of good barbecue. So we were at that Terry Black's place down there, and I mean this thing looked like a dinosaur rib. So TQ hammered that one away, but just those interactions. I mean, it's real, it's genuine. It's not one of these phony, hey, I'm made for Instagram or whatever social media. I'm gonna look good, and then the guy's a complete fraud. I mean, this kid's authentic, and he's real, and he's got a unique story.
We talked earlier in the week about how you can't ignore all the mock drafts out there, and so of course you saw that a lot of people were connecting you guys to Bijan, and a lot of those speculations included the possibility that because of the way other teams view running backs right now, there might have been an opportunity for you to move back and still get the guy you want. Was that ever in the thought process tonight?
You definitely weigh it. You definitely weigh when you're on the clock. You communicate with teams, and really I say on the clock, even leading up to it. You communicate with teams and see what the price would be to move back, what you could get, what you could pick up to move back. And then you have to weigh it and say, okay, if we're going to pick up this draft pick or make this pick swap and move back this many spots, and these are the players we're going to be looking at because this could happen. You just have to weigh it out, and we did. That's our job. It's a part of the process to really weigh it out. Same thing we'll do tomorrow. If whether we're going to move up or move back, it's all a weighing process. And so you want to do that, but when you feel good about the player and you want to take the player and you say, okay, if we move back a few spots and we lose him and if you feel good about it and you have conviction, and we have really strong conviction on him, so we didn't want to risk anything.
And Charles, follow that up too. I mean, one things that are just pretty obvious when you're talking about you're weighing risk. Certainly, we had opportunities. As you're Terry, I mean, they were working the phones, and you do take that risk. But I think what you're talking about, conventional wisdom. Bijan's more than a running back. He's an impact football player. He's a home run hitter. The other part is you can see the corresponding moves. It's just like last year when you're weighing taking a receiver early. We felt there was going to be a run on receiver. So we said, there's a lot of good players. If we go into the position, we may not get any receiver in the second round. Well, I think you saw a couple picks later the corresponding move, Charles. So, kind of that's the best answer I can give you. There's cause and effect there. Certainly, we're not in any of my other teams' draft rooms, but things become pretty obvious.
Do you think you guys approach the draft differently than other teams, just with the concept of, I guess, convention in terms of how,
Saying, are we disruptors?
If you want to use that, I'm not using that word, or do you feel like y'all?
That's a word you would probably use, right? Especially this late at night, trying to be interesting.
Guys, glued with free snacks over there.
Matzo. No, I mean, is that something you guys feel like, because you said Kyle Pitts at 4 2 years ago, tight end is a position that conventionally doesn't get taken that high. You do that with Bijan this year. Like, is there something where maybe how you all approach this draft process is different than how other teams have historically done it?
You know, when you answer those, it's like you're sitting there trying to pat yourself on the back, like we've done something. You know, we have our beliefs in the way we operate, but that's a lot of moves. Look at the other moves we made, Mike. You know, not just the draft. You know, you're trying to find value and where you can. I think we've tried to be creative. Certainly, the first 2 years is certain things we're trying to work around to give us a chance to win and to build the right culture around here. So. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. Like I always think about this business. There's so much paranoia and insecurity, and people want to crowdsource things and go with groupthink to make safe so they feel good right now. And if we'll see, we'll find out. But we feel pretty damn good about where we're at.
Yeah, we really believe in our staff. Whether we're talking about the front office, the coaches, we believe in our building, we believe in our process, and so when we take players off the board, we love those players, and we have a lot of conviction, again, about the players and the people that we're bringing in the building. With what we're trying to build here, it's all important, and so we feel real good about the guys, and we don't. You do have to block out the noise and not care if it's conventional or if what different people say you should or shouldn't do. You got to kind of block out the noise and really believe in your building and your process, and we're really excited.
I think last year you said before the draft your son had already gotten the Drake London jersey. Was this another moment like that where you guys kind of circled Bijan before the draft, or was this kind of how it fell out?
Well, we got excited about him, right? And we got excited about the player. We didn't buy Caden the Bijan jersey. He's getting to a point where I'm starting to worry about him a little bit because he wants to get a lot of information. He wants to talk about stuff. He really loves this, but we had talked about something during free agency. I told him we were going to try to sign a particular player. And so he keeps texting me and asking me, hey, Dad, did you do it yet? Did y'all do it yet? And he said, let me know when you do. I got something prepared. And I was like, whoa, buddy. It's almost like he was going to tweet something out or a picture. I said, no, you can't. You're not breaking news. You're not. He's trying to get his followers up. So, no, we didn't buy him a Bijan jersey because I didn't feel like I just don't know if he's going to wear it to school or something. But we do – there comes a point in the process where you fall in love with a player or players, and it just depends on how it falls. So we did love Bijan. We're excited about him, but we need to go through the process of the draft. And the way it fell out, we're really excited.
To follow up on that, you said there comes a point in the process when you fall in love with a player. When did y'all fall in love with Bijan?
It was kind of, I say one point, but it's kind of everything together, right? So it's you look at the boots on the ground, area scouts, when they're evaluating the players. Years ago, early in their careers, they're evaluating them, and they have real strong grades on them, on and off the field, and the area scouts love them. They love the player. And then as you continue to go through the process, and then the coaches get involved, and then everyone, every step of the way from the very beginning to the very end, all the way down to the workout. You get to workout and you see him in person and what he's doing. It's every part of the process, and you look all the way back to the very beginning to that first area scout that put a grade on him, and he loved him, and graded him the place that he did. So I think it's really the total picture.
How much, what kind of reference does Sarkisian give for Bijan?
A great one.
I didn't really know Steve, before. Obviously, we got a lot of mutual friends, and you cross paths with a lot of people. But that was another part of that visit. Getting to spend time with him, and again, like everybody, as you're filtering through, I've had plenty of other coaches, they sell you, and that's their job too, and they may leave out some things that you find out later, like, I wish I would have known that. That's not the case with Bijan or what anything Sark told us, and it wasn't just about the player too; it was about the impact he had in the locker room, the leadership that he had. So
we really appreciate him too, because we try to go on a lot of these visits, and we did with other players as well. And and just how welcoming they were in that facility. Best thing is right when you walk in, there's a picture of Jerry Gray. And what would you call that hairdo?
I'll send out the picture.
It's great. It's one of these old school hairdos, but they're very welcoming. I mean, and allow us full access and let us do everything. And that's pretty cool because they got a job to do. They're in spring ball, but for him to allow us to go there and spend all the time we did with them, and they're wide open with everything. That means a lot.
There's a young group of skilled players here that are going to be under contract for a long time. You know, with Des and Kyle and Tyler and Drake and now Robinson. Is there something to be said not only for bringing in this talent, but this talent is going to play together for a long time to kind of build that?
Certainly that's what you're hoping, Scott. You know, you go back and look at what Jimmy Johnson did with Dallas, right? I mean, they did a little bit different. You know, the game was played a little bit different back then. I mean, still football, I mean, the line of scrimmage, but just a good young core. And, you know, there was, when they added those guys, and that's not the only example, but that's probably a good reference point as well. It certainly helps, you know, when there's consistency, even with the staff, when you're not constantly learning new languages every spring, and that helps, certainly helps, especially when we're going to ask guys to play as many roles as we do. And we'll bring Bijan along the right way too. And speaking of Tyler, you know, Tyler's a very important part of this offense. They're different players. And you talk about how different, unique, you can look at a lot of advanced metrics, right, on the surface. You're like, hey, both of them are yards after contact players. But how they do that, they're different, completely different. You know, Tyler is like you know, when you watch the game goes on, it's like somebody that's just got a sledgehammer that's bludgeoning through the line of scrimmage as the game goes on and wears you down. Where Bijan, his contact balance, the way he doesn't go down, and the way he's able to get explosives off that, they're just different. The way that people will have to tackle him, they're different players. But if you look at that metric, yeah, they both are yards after contact. Yeah, they both play running back, similar to Jonnu and Kyle. They're listed as tight ends, but they're completely different players.
I can remember a time or two last season when we discussed the committee approach at running back, and you said, you know, you have a different philosophy based upon the players you have, and of course the Derrick Henry comparison comes up.
Yeah,
so can this guy be that kind of guy who can take that kind of
sure
sure?
I've never asked somebody to be that's ridiculous. You know, Derrick Henry is probably a gold jacket player. Derrick Henry is one of the most unique players I've ever been privileged to coach. And if you really want to look at it to get in depth, the way we ran the ball in 20 in Tennessee is completely different how we ran it in 20. You know, pretty similar success. I mean, excuse me, 22. Sorry, Charles. Here I go. That's my first mental error of the late
And
night.
he doesn't have mental. He
Charles
referenced
is
a
sharp.
date.
No,
with
Charles
me
is
the other
sharp.
day
He's
when
got
he
his
asked
stuff.
the
He's got his
question.
stuff going.
Be careful what you say,
But
man.
if you look
He's on it.
You look at the run game in Charles in 20, and the way we ran the football in Tennessee, and the way we ran it last year, we didn't run that kind of zone read. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. I mean, on the surface, it was like, oh, yeah, running the football. Well, Derrick, unique. We're not asking Tyler. We're going to never ask a player to be something like that. And the way we ran it last year in 22, with very similar results as we had in 20 in Tennessee, completely different run game. We were pistol, we were zone read, we did all kind of different things. So, again, surface narrative, oh yeah, that's not what we did. It's not what we did in 21. Now, obviously, we know what we need to get to and what we're you know, plan to achieve here. But that's, so Tyler and Bijan and Caleb Huntley or CP, you know, whoever's here, whoever, you know, is up on game day, they'll all have unique roles, but nobody will be Derrick Henry, I can promise you that.
Arthur, as the play caller and someone who I know you like to drop the X's and O's and things, like how excited does this make you? I know you talk about his versatility, but just to to be able to kind of flex him out from a slot receiver and then move him into the backfield potentially, does that just open up the offense?
You know, that's the thing is like when we get into the process, you know, after the season, coaches get into the scouting process, right? These guys have done so much work, and this is what I appreciate about our scouts. And so it's my job too. You know, we all have our opinions on the players, but then you get a group of guys with these guys in the pot, even defensively. I've got to, and we have a great staff, and we collaborate on this, and we got a creative staff and guys that are problem solvers. So it's like, all right, if we take player A, how do we make this guy successful? The easiest thing to do, as you get down here is just to knock these guys of what they can't do, this and that. So I started making cut-ups of, all right, We get player A. What's the vision? Where I think he's really strong. How does he fit us? And where we kind of push the limits to. So with a guy like Bijan, I did the same thing with Kyle, Drake, or anybody we've taken. Tyler, anybody we've invested in, certainly early. And then the same thing on the defensive side. What's their role? We did it with the free agents. Go back and watch Bud Dupree, okay? Here's what he did in Pittsburgh. Kind of here's what he did in Tennessee. A little bit different scheme. Here's what's always been his strengths. How would he fit us? Calais, no different. He's played everywhere on the defensive line. Calais came in here. Here's what the vision was. I talked to Ryan. Ryan talks to him. Here's how we played guys. So same thing. So we try to make sure anybody we bring in here, certainly that we invest in like that here's the vision for this player. And like an offense guy like Bijan, how creative can we be?
When did you all sense, just looking at the way things unfolded with the quarterbacks at 1, 2, and 4, when did y'all sense he might get through to you?
You never know until you're on the clock. You never know until you're on the clock. And we were trying to, you talk to everybody and we have those conversations about moving back and moving up, and we talk to everybody. And but man, you really never know until you're on the clock.
2 trades in front of you too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
And somebody brought it up too, like how much people lie in this thing. And it's so competitive. and you sit back and you look at it, and Terry said it the other day, and he was right. I mean, it was so unpredictable. The last 2 years, I think we were pretty confident, give or take, right? This one was chaos, other than one. I mean, I think that was the worst kept secret for the last couple of weeks. But you get down 2 and beyond, even people that you potentially had trade, and nobody's going to tell you what they're taking, but the way that they try to put all this misinformation, that's not what really happened.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was, and we're just thankful he was there.
So, kind of following on, when you guys were on the clock, you said you were talking about it before, were there offers that you were seriously entertaining to move back from you?
We discussed, again, leading up to the pick, and we even discussed some things when you're on the clock. But you just got to weigh it out. You have to look at what you're really getting, and does it make sense? Because you don't know if you move back 3 spots if someone else is taking a player, or someone else can jump and take a player. You just really don't know. So you have to weigh it out and say, okay, when you look at your stack of players, if we go back 3 spots, are we going to be good with this player and this additional pick that we're getting? Is that really worth it? But that's what I love about our staff. When we're convicted and we love players and we want them, and you still have those discussions, but the same thing. There's some players we're really excited about that are going to be on the board tomorrow. And that's what you're looking for, conviction and passion. And you love these guys, and you talk about the young core. And that is exciting because y'all have met all these guys. Like, they're good. You want your kids wearing these jerseys. You want to buy your kid a Bijan jersey or a Drake jersey or a Kyle jersey. You want to buy your kids these jerseys
Or
because
Lindstrom.
Or Chris Lindstrom.
Because he gets Caden the skill guys. I'm getting Big Liam Lindstrom jersey or Jake.
Caden, he's got a coup jersey too. But you really get
or Anyamata or Grady.
But you really do. You get excited about these players and the guys that, because the type of people they are too, they're going to reach their ceilings because of who they are and the passion, and you keep bringing those kind of guys in, and we're really building something special, and we're excited.
It's maybe way too early to ask this question. Does this change how you either use Cordero or in some ways Cordero's status, I guess, is on the roster?
Well, you want to evolve. I mean, CP took on a different role in 21 than last year. He carried the ball a lot more early in 22. We're excited about guys we have on this roster, Mike, and it's my job to get the most out of whoever's up and healthy on game day and do everything I can to win those games. But as you look at it, and some of it's a numbers game too. You're talking about targets and carries and the way you're trying to get the football and spread it around. And like I said, you'd like to get to the point where you've been balanced. I don't think you'll ever get to it. If you did have 1,100 snaps and you're going to go 550, 550, because some games you're hoping to be in some more 4-minute, but we want to be more balanced in how we get there, and that's a good problem to have. But we got to make sure, everybody, the way you target guys, again, if you may call a play, you may be going to Drake, they roll the coverage, or they double him, we got other weapons that can open things up. So you want to get to the point where pick your poison. And so we feel good. We're moving in that direction.
Given the level of uncertainty heading into this draft, and you see these trades, and you're not sure if Bijan's going to be there at 8, what happens? Does some emotion creep in, or like what's going through your head when you're on the clock, he's there?
You know.
Well, so you're patient, right? Airtime, right? So you take a little time. You wait and answer calls, and you have that communication. You got to cover your bases. Again, that's our job. That's our job to work to get the right value in all those areas. And so you answer the calls and you take your time. But man, we're excited. We kind of had a feeling what Vegas was going to do, in front of us. And so, but still, you're waiting. You don't know if. And then once you get on the clock, you're excited, but you got to take your time and go through the process. But we're pumped.
Terry, you mentioned earlier about just having conviction in these picks and not succumbing to the group think. And I read one review from the draft, and there were 2 Ds given out, and they were to the 2 running backs that were selected. So how do you find that conviction? Because I know there's probably some stats where you're saying like, okay, well, we don't want to draft certain players that have these combine metrics or whatever, because it's historically a poor decision. So how do you find that?
Well, you just when you go through and you look at the history, and that's what we do, and it really helps when we look at the history and look at grades on draft grades or free agents grades or coaches hires, and you look at the way what critics are saying, and a lot of times it's wrong. And it's because, and look, in the moment, it could be something as simple as they had something different in their mock draft, and it's fantasy football to whoever the publications are. But when you go back and look at the history, it is freeing because you see that, okay, those instant analysis aren't always right. And sometimes the total other way, when you talk about players that are taken and how good the picks were and how good the signings were, and sometimes those are way off too. So when you look at that stuff, then you just want to block it out. And again, our staff does a really good job of that, blocking that out, and let's do what's right for us and do what's right for our team.
Terry, this week, Bijan had said that he felt like the running back position's undervalued a little bit. There were a couple taken in the first round trade. Do y'all feel like the way that the league approaches the running back position in terms of the draft, where he's accurate there? Undervalued?
It's just a personal opinion. I mean, I think he's a valuable football player, and the impact he can have on your team. And then that's the value, the impact he makes. Does he help you win games? I mean, there's a lot of guys that can stuff the stat sheet. You can have a lot of receptions. You're playing a lot of 2-minute and getting your teeth kicked in, and you can have a great year. You have 90-something catches, and you can feel really great. But what was your impact on winning? And so I think a guy like Bijan, I mean, his impact is winning. The same thing at Kyle. Kyle had statistically a great year as a rookie year. And this year, obviously, we've been at nauseam about that too. But Kyle's impact on winning, we felt that when Kyle went in there, I promise you that. We were trying to problem solve and whatever, but that stuff is real. And obviously, you'd like to get to the point where you're rolling offensively, where everybody's, when you really get to that point, certainly. And but you got to have the right mindset. But the impact he'll have on winning, I mean, that's the same thing defensively. I remember maybe guys that just push the pocket and they open up things. We've seen guys get paid because they're around a great player that's an interior pressure player. Guy has one good year, and he gets paid, and you never hear from him again. So, but the guy that pushes the pocket, he may never show up on that stat sheet. You may have some guru that maybe actually can watch it and say, hey, this guy's got a pressure thing, but then they may just say, oh, well, he doesn't have any sacks or quarterback hits. But he was the guy, I call it like the RBI guy. It's no different than sometimes on a route, certain coverages, they're at the right depth. All that stuff matters. Or they have those extra things. That's another underrated thing Drake did. A lot of our explosive runs, you see the guy that's down the field, the point tack, usually number 5. Okay, so he didn't have 15 catches and 300 yards, but the guy was able to help us win in different ways. And then he did have an impact. His impact is, they said 6 catches for 80, and he has a touchdown. But the impact he had down the field and kept drives going, set up maybe explosive play later. Those are things that don't show up. But when you have a vision, so I'll get off my soapbox here, but the impact he has on winning is what we're really fired up about.
Anything else? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Y'all got to be exhausted, man, because I know I am.
Let the grind wear you down.